Good morning, Kirksville. You're tuned in to 88.7 The Edge. This is Kirksville's True Alternative. My name is Damian.
And I'm Summer.
And this is Summer and Damian in the Morning. We're here every Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. I think I'm used to this early morning shift now, Summer.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think so. It's early, but I can get here and I feel good.
That's good.
And I tell people 7 and it doesn't feel weird anymore.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, I think they feel weird. I don't feel weird.
Well, I've learned like which demographics, like which of my friends are up at this hour and which ones are definitely not.
Most of mine are not.
So I'm careful like not to ask, hey, you should listen to my show on Thursday or...
Right, you don't want to make them feel weird because they'll say, yeah, sure, of course, I'll listen.
Right,
and then you say, and they'll ask, when is it?
Exactly.
7 to 9. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I had a friend in town last week and I was like, you should be on our show. And he was like, yeah, okay, I'll come on your show. He's like, what time is it? I was like, it's at 7. He's like, I'll listen.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. Did he listen?
I don't know. But I also have friends who like set their alarm and like sleep through while listening to this in the morning.
What do you mean sleep through?
Like they'll set their alarm to go off to the radio and they'll like set it for 7 or 7:30 or 8 to like catch it, but like then they like sleep more. They just kind of like have it playing in the background.
No, I'll take that. I'll take
whatever, right?
Listeners.
Osmosis, they're absorbing.
They'll learn. So I feel like we've been gone for a while. It's only been a week, right?
Yeah, but it does feel like a while. I feel like this week has felt very long. I think I'm finally understanding what that seasonal depression thing means.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Damian, I slept for like 40 hours straight. The past 40 hours.
That's substantial.
I went to bed on like Tuesday evening, and I woke up this morning.
Wow.
So
and you're gonna go back to sleep too, right?
Probably.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, especially if it's like not fully sunny.
Yeah, well, that's a thing. People, if you just go to sleep.
It really throws me off, especially when I like don't have as many classes as everyone else. So my classes are much more like spread out. It just gives me no incentive to wake up and go.
Right. Good thing we had the show this morning.
I know. See, that's like I've slept through
till Saturday.
All my classes yesterday and lab and meetings and other fun things, friend's birthday thing. But I woke up
Friends
for the
don't
show.
Matter. Good.
But I woke up for the show.
Good.
Because the show is important.
I
can't leave you hanging.
I haven't gotten a hold. I've like been kind of trying to get a hold of you for like the last couple days.
Yeah, it's been hard. So my phone is gone. Someone took my phone, my flip phone.
It's unusual.
Exactly. I was like, I have this flip phone. No one is ever going to steal this flip phone. Even if I leave it somewhere, like drop it on the ground or leave it at a restaurant, no one is going to take it. They're going to turn it in.
They'll try to return it to you because they'll assume it's some elderly person's phone.
Sure. And my phone especially,
phone.
Yeah, big numbers. Like it definitely looks like an elderly person's phone.
Right.
But, it's gone. So sleeping for 40 hours, having a phone missing, it's been a little difficult to get a hold of me this
I don't know
week.
where Summer's been. Yeah. But this is serious, though. Someone took your phone. It's a flip phone. I have a flip phone, and when people make fun of my flip phone, I say, hey, but no one's ever going to steal it.
Exactly.
I can leave it places.
Exactly.
It won't be an issue. But now there's a flip phone stealer out there.
There is.
A flip phone smuggler.
Yeah. So I ordered a new flip phone, so it should be here tomorrow.
You had to order one?
It's the number 2 of my old one. It's like the second
it's like the
version.
The rebirth.
The rebirth,
Ooh,
yeah. So I'm really excited.
Something.
Also, I found out that it's cheaper for me to get an iPhone than a flip phone.
Really?
But I just
wouldn't you have to start a new contract or something?
No, because I had like an upgrade or something.
Oh, you had an upgrade ready?
Yeah.
Ready to go. That's how they get you.
I know. But, I just can't. I can't go back there.
Good.
It's my old life.
You don't need it. It's bad. It's bad for the world.
I'm glad you appreciate that. I've told other people and they're like, what? Like my dad's cell phone rep is like, your daughter needs an iPhone. I'm like, no, I don't.
No, you don't. You don't. Well, we got a good show coming up.
We do.
At 8 o'clock, we have Nick Toti on. He's a filmmaker.
Truman grad.
A Truman grad, but he's out of Austin, Texas now. Last night, his film screened here on campus.
Yes.
You Are Your Body, You Are Not Your Body. And I attended the screening, enjoyed the screening. Excellent screening all around. So I'm excited to have him on. Nick Toti at 8 o'clock. The 8 o'clock hour.
Possibly with Dr. Dashke?
No, he's not coming.
Oh, he's not coming? Okay.
We don't want to talk about that.
Okay.
No, he's just, he won't come. We're just going to talk to Nick. And then we got online dating is still something that's really interesting to me. We talked about it last week and we've talked about it before. We're back this week. We got some psychological research on online dating.
All right.
And then some trends that we're seeing.
I think this has been our most consistent story through the semester.
Right. Last semester was all about sexual assault. This semester, online dating.
Yep.
Similar? Different? Well. And then the CSI Effect. The show CSI has been immensely popular since it came out, and all the spin-offs are also popular. But what kind of effect is this having on the United States? We're going to look into this.
Okay.
I'm excited to see what the effects are. So you've been listening to Summer and Damian in the Morning on 88.7 The Edge.
Want to know the buzz about what's happening at Truman State University? Then the online Master Calendar is the place to go. The Truman Master Calendar offers you multiple options for events on campus, with sometimes 20 a day. Whether it be sports events, art exhibits and theater events, career expos, or concerts, the Master Calendar will always have what you are looking for. Go to calendar.truman.edu and find an event you won't want to miss.
Good morning, Kirksville. You're tuned into 88.7 The Edge. This is Kirksville's True Alternative, and you're listening to Summer and Damian in the Morning. Good
morning.
Did I say morning?
No, that was good.
Maybe we should go back and forth. Summer and David in the morning.
In the morning.
In the morning.
Really early in the morning.
Really, not that early. It's not too bad. Some shows start at 6. Not here.
What
but
shows? Oh, okay.
Like
yes.
morning drive show.
That's
our
true.
competition.
That's true.
The people we're competing with for listeners.
You know, my favorite morning show is Morning Joe.
Yeah, I thought so.
I love Morning Joe. Actually, I don't watch it anymore now that I'm in college. It's a little bit difficult.
Why do you like Morning Joe?
Because I love Joe. And I love Minka.
Okay, well. They're
just great. They're just such a great team, a great balance of opinions and ideas. And I love Joe because he's so conservative, but he's like smart, you know, and like he gets things.
Oh, that's important. Getting it. Do we get it? Are we getting it?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I thought maybe you would say, yeah, we're getting it. We get it. No.
Someday.
Maybe.
Someday, maybe. I'd like to get it.
By the end of the semester?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, online dating, I'm still convinced that maybe we should try to create an online, like a singular online dating profile to try to put some of these things into practice. We've talked last week about what makes online dating profiles successful. We've talked before about how you're going to differentiate your profile to other people's profiles. But I have some psychological research.
Okay.
Finkel, if you guys want to check this out, listeners at home, check out this article. It's brilliant.
You could post it.
I could post it. Finkel et al. 2012. It's from the Psychological Science in the Public Interest Journal. Just took a really almost comprehensive look at online dating. So they note that online dating is getting a lot more popular, but they note some benefits and some harms of online dating. I'm going to talk about the harms because the benefits aren't that exciting to me. So online, some simple ones. They think that online dating can promote cheating.
Oh, right. Interesting.
Because you're talking to all these people at the same time.
You're kind of throwing out feelers all at the same time, right?
At the same time.
But it's not like an eye contact feeler. It's like a
hey.
It's like a hey feeler.
They know. I mean, when someone approaches you at a bar, you kind of have a feeling of what's going on. But when they contact you on an online dating site,
exactly, you don't know.
There can be no doubt.
Because at a bar, they can only be saying hey to you only at that time.
In that moment. It's a beautiful moment.
It is. But online dating, can send out a lot of feelers at the same time.
Yeah, and that's what happens.
That's what you're supposed to do, right? I mean, that's like the point, kind of.
Well, Finkel et al. Would disagree.
Okay.
They think one of they give suggestions for being successful at online dating, and one of those tips is to only focus on a couple contacts at a time, candidates they call it. Only focus on 2, maybe 3, because it's gonna make you have better communication. And you're gonna try to find things in common better. It's gonna be better for you. And they also say that there's a lot of deception on online dating sites because these sites don't screen for substance abuse, violent crime history, psychological problems that they may have, and so you get all kinds of people on these sites. You don't know who you're talking to, really, and that's really just characteristic of the internet since its inception. We're not really sure who we're talking about. That's why my mom told me to stay out of chat rooms.
Yeah, I remember that.
That was a big thing. Chat rooms,
absolutely.
Remember? Going to talk to people on chat rooms, and then all of a sudden I'm going to be on TV, like getting, pulled out of this house. What's going on in the house? I don't know.
Yeah. I remember that.
Could have been a thing. So those are all fine and interesting, but I think the biggest harm that they talked about, one that I think is most significant, is that online dating makes us dehumanize romantic candidates. Because when you go to use online dating, they're paying for a service. They're putting a lot of work into something. And when that's the case, they want it to be worth it. They want it to just have some results. And so these people, I think, are more likely to be looking for a soulmate, looking for someone that's going to really connect with them. And while that might seem like what you're normally trying to do, research out there shows that people who are focusing on this romantic destiny, they're more likely to leave a relationship when things go bad. They're also the ones that are more likely to be vengeful when transgressions happen.
Right.
And so if you believe it, the idea is that you're on here looking for someone that's going to be perfect and that you don't have to work for in a relationship, that's just going to make your relationships worse. You're more likely to leave these relationships.
Okay.
And so we're dehumanizing these potential candidates because we're trying to really quickly determine whether a photo or a brief profile is going to be someone that we want to spend more time with.
Right.
So we pay more attention to appearance, and we use all these biases to try to determine people. Oh, you have this one interest. It's going to create a halo effect. Oh, you went to this, you like this band. You must have good characteristics overall. You must be a good person. And we're going to use these biases to try to determine who our soulmate is.
Or even like all those, like some of those dating sites that kind of match you with people instead of like letting you just go find whoever, right? They kind of like match you with like certain other profiles,
That's
right?
That's what eHarmony does.
Right, exactly. And
That's
so like, it's like this. We've like elevated also, I think, this like compatibility thing where we think this relationship will work because we're compatible in so many ways, as opposed to like how I see relationships as like I'm choosing to like stay here with you, right? I'm like choosing to like build whatever we're building, like build this relationship with you, despite the fact that we're completely incompatible, because I think everyone is to a degree incompatible. You know what I mean?
As humans.
Yeah, as human beings, exactly. Because we're very individual people. And I don't know. I always have had a problem with the compatibility argument. When someone dates someone new, they're like, well, we're just so compatible, or we work so well together, you know? I don't think that's what it's about, really. And I think that honestly to me is one of the main reasons why relationships fail. I think
is because we focus on compatibility.
We put too much emphasis on compatibility, thinking that is the relationship builder. Like that should be the core instead of like the hard work that kind of goes into
absolutely
into it.
Absolutely. It's all the research on, not all the research, but there's so much research out there on relationships and what makes relationships successful. Good communication and empathy and being able to work through problems is really the determining factor.
Yeah, because even the most compatible two individuals will have problems,
Absolutely.
and it's not like a problem comes up that you've never had before because you're so compatible and you can just run away. No, you have to stay and you have to like say this is worth it and I'm going to work hard at making this
boo
work. Oh, come on.
But I will say compatibility is a better determining factor of relationship success than this idea of opposites attract.
You think?
No, according to the research.
Okay, according to this article.
Well, according to research and to relationship research in general, the idea that opposites attract romantically is not really supported in the research. And so the idea that people who are similar to each other, that's going to be better for you. It's not going to be what makes a relationship work. But it's much better than, I'm going to date someone different than me. That they're going to compliment. I'm really outgoing. They're kind of shy. We're going to compliment each other. That's not going to work most of the time.
Okay, interesting.
That's not going to work. But like I agree with you. There's bigger issues out there, but compatibility is more important. And actually, Finkel et al. They cite eHarmony's matching people on compatibility technique, that's their brand, as the reason they're the most successful online dating site. People like that. Maybe it leads to better relationships.
Maybe.
But
what I'm also really curious about is like the whole, have you ever seen couples that look like they could be siblings? Because they look so similar.
Yes.
I wonder if that's part of like the whole online dating thing, because you see the picture, right?
Yeah.
That's like the main thing that you see. Yeah. I wonder if like the instance of that happening, it like increases with like online dating.
Yeah, there's so much research out there about familiarity and liking people that's similar. Actually, I've seen some research that says that we are more likely, overall, we're more likely to end up with people that are similar to us. In the long term, over the long term. But this is so significant that we are even more likely to date people whose letters in their name are similar to ours.
No way.
Or if you take any kind of arbitrary number like your birthday, we're more likely to date people whose birthdays are closer to ours. Or say they're in sports and they have a number, they're number 11, and our birthday's on the 11th. We're more likely to date them. It's true. It's true.
Oh, man. We are strange creatures.
We're weird people. We are weird people. It's true, because when we see someone similar to us, usually we have positive affect from them. We're like, oh, man, I like them. They're similar to me. Actually, this happened to me once. I was judging someone. Back in high school when I did debate, I was judging a tournament. Mm-hmm. And I had a partner who was a novice, so it was his first year debating, so I could judge that tournament, and he couldn't. And I gave him one of my speeches. I said, here, you can work with this. Go ahead and do this speech. It wasn't like my favorite speech. It was I thought really good. And then I ended up judging him, which was a little unethical. But I ended up judging him in a round, and he gave that speech. That was my speech. I gave him my speech, and which is fine. That's why I gave it to him. Uh-huh. And it was just music to my ears. I thought, this is the greatest speech I've ever heard, because maybe there's a little bit.
So funny.
I know, maybe there's a little bit of ego there.
Sure,
this is a perfect argument. It was everything I wanted to hear.
That's why I find it so weird, though. You're like attracted to someone who kind of looks like you. It's just a little vain, and it's like very strange.
Absolutely, it's all about number one. It's about number one. So. Yeah, that's a thing.
Maybe that's why relationships fail. I'm telling you.
Yeah, a lot of relationships fail. Well, there's something else about online dating I saw. I was just looking over online dating news, seeing what other stuff's going on. It's a really popular topic right now.
Yeah.
It's getting more popular. Mm-hmm. But something I saw last night was this article on Business Insider. There was this idea that online dating saves money. So there was this market research group out of New York. They're called Convergex Group. They do all kinds of research on markets and stuff. And they try to find out how much it costs for someone to date someone before marriage. If two people end up together, how long did that courtship last? First thing you gotta do is determine how long it lasts. And for traditional offline marriages, that courtship usually lasts about 42 months.
Okay.
So it's a long time.
Yeah.
42 months to stay along with the person. For an online relationship that ends up in marriage, the average length of courtship is 18.5 months. So it's a lot.
Wow.
It's a lot shorter. Huh. So that's interesting in itself.
Okay.
So how much does it cost to date someone? So, and this is the reason this is ridiculous to me. So Convergex, they do some math to determine how long it costs to date someone, and they assume that you'll go out on a date once a week. But not only will you'll go out on a date once a week, that you're going to go on a nice date once a week. So here's their math. They assume $130 per week on a date, and that's one date. So they average $100 for a nice meal, nice restaurant, and drinks, and then $30 also.
What demographic is this?
For a movie and popcorn. So $130 every week going to a nice restaurant and having drinks, going to a movie and getting popcorn. And I thought, I have never done that. That has never been date night for me. I've had some good dates. Uh-huh. None of them ever included nice meal, drinks, and popcorn and movie. I just thought
that's a lot, though. Like I feel like that's a very slim demographic that they're looking at, and that's really not fair.
Well, they're in New York, so maybe that their data is biased.
Yeah, but are they New York, like what, 28 to 32, like upper middle class, like, yuppies?
Yeah, I know that's what the demographic seems to be. But here's the funny part in there. They say, it's this verbatim, they say that we'll take a conservative estimate of $130 a week.
Oh,
and I thought, that is
gosh.
not conservative. Like, that is not a conservative date.
Right.
Date timetable. So that's funny to me. But anyway, the results, they say that a 42-month courtship, using their estimates for how much a date is and how frequent people go on dates, is $23,600. That's how much it's going to cost you to date someone. And then you got to pay for the wedding.
That's true.
Almost $24,000.
Man, that's insane.
That's too much.
I go on like dollar laundry dates and like
like, hey, let's go feed the fish.
Or like Pancake City dates.
Let's go on a walk.
Exactly.
Let's watch a movie,
a hike
on Netflix.
See, those are the types of dates I've been on.
Maybe we're just
I like
different.
them.
Well, here's the thing. I try to decide. Maybe this isn't even talking about me. People get married around my time, but the average age of marriage is 27. So 42 months. We're looking at 25 to 27. That's not where I'm at. So maybe it's just not even about me. Maybe when I'm 25, I'm going to be... I hope not. Geez. Imagine $23,000. That's total cost. So if you go Dutch, it's different.
Sure.
So if you are an online dater, you're going to save each person, assuming you go Dutch on all these costs, you're going to save about $6,400 on dates in your 18.5 month period of dating someone. Which is substantial. That's a wedding.
Go Dutch.
Always go Dutch.
Go Dutch.
So online dating, this is fun. Still a fun topic for me. We're gonna continue looking.
We got to make a profile, man. Or you have to make a profile.
I have to make a profile.
Yeah.
I'd make a profile. Yeah. I'd love to see what's going on. I need to get in there behind enemy lines.
You should do it. I really want you to do it, especially when you go back to Kansas City, because then it'll be like,
there's
people.
A lot more. Yeah, that's true. I'm gonna be there over the summer. I can start chatting people up.
Maybe
now.
you get a Tinder. Oh wait, you don't have a smartphone though. Makes it a little bit more difficult.
No, I don't. But I'll go like old, what is OkCupid, but they're expensive too.
Yeah,
there's some free ones, but
there's like hipstermuslim.com.
I could do that.
You couldn't do that. No,
I couldn't.
No, you're not Muslim.
I know, but haven't you heard about people going to online dating sites when they're not that demographic, but they're just looking for that demographic?
Oh, okay.
That's a really popular thing. That's a phenomenon.
I guess I understand.
And that's pseudo accepted in those communities.
There's like christianmissionary.com for like couples who want to find each other before they go overseas to do their mission work.
Yeah, that's me. Not really.
I mean, that type of girl, she might be like, adventurous, want to go overseas, that type of thing.
Right.
Christian.
Correct. Yeah. There's pros and cons.
Yeah. It's not about compatibility, Damian.
It's not. It's about how much we're going to work. How much we're going to work. I'm going to work for you.
I think you're going to work hard.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see. I'm considering it.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
I think you should do it.
I'm considering it. Maybe over the break, I'll already have a profile. We'll see. All right. Well, you've been listening to Summer and Damian in the Morning on 88.7 The Edge. Welcome back. You're tuned in to 88.7 The Edge, Kirksville's true alternative. This is Summer and Damian in the Morning, breaking down the week's topics in news, culture, film. Remember, 8 o'clock, we're going to have Nick Toti, filmmaker. His movie, You Are Your Body, You Are Not Your Body, screened last night here on Truman's campus. I was in attendance. It was an official Summer and Damian in the Morning event.
I was hermiting.
And Summer was hermiting, but I'm looking forward to the interview. Nick Toti, filmmaker, on at 8 o'clock.
So, Damian,
Summer.
Next story.
Next
story mine. Okay, so I stumbled across this article about e-cigarettes poisoning people.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I have like friends that smoke cigarettes, and I have friends who
all your friends smoke, don't they?
A lot of my friends smoke, yes. But I have some of them who have said, "Man, you should really switch these e-cigarettes because it's supposed to be better for you. It's supposed to help you kick the habit, kind of." And some e-cigarettes are just like water vapor because it like helps. Yeah. Smokers like continue the habit of holding something and smoking something, but it's just like water vapor. So like it kind of helps them break the habit. But some e-cigarettes have like highly potent nicotine liquid inside, and so you still get like a little bit of the nicotine, but without like the harmful like smoke part, I guess.
In your lungs.
Right, and it's also supposed to kind of help you kick the habit, where it's supposed to be a better alternative, a cleaner alternative. But the nicotine that is extracted from tobacco in liquid form is like extremely poisonous.
Oh, yeah?
Like extremely poisonous. And so they're showing, like the study came out showing how like the number of calls to the poison control has like increased significantly since like e-cigarettes have gone on the market.
Overall numbers?
Yeah. overall numbers. And they're saying that like the nicotine liquid is like it's extracted, and then it's like like flavors are added, and like cool colors, like neon colors are added.
Kids.
Yeah, for kids. But like they're kept in like these really colorful, beautiful jars. And like, so the number of cases actually, the number of calls to poison control from like e-cigarette, I guess, poisonings, has mostly been like children who have like accidentally swallowed some of this liquid because, you know, they just see it and it's like this bright, colorful jar and it looks really great and they drink it. And it's actually really poisonous. Like a teaspoonful of some of this stuff can like kill you. Like it's lethal. Like if you just ingest it.
How much is in a cigarette?
In a cigarette? I don't know, like maybe like half a teaspoon or something.
Okay.
Because the idea is that like if you inhale it, like that's, you know, that's just like you inhaling nicotine. But it's like if it touches your skin or is absorbed through your skin, or if you ingest it through the mouth, that could kill you. This lady was like smoking in her bed, fell asleep, and like crushed her e-cigarette, and the liquid got on her skin, and she had to be rushed to the hospital.
Oh, really?
And there's even been a couple of like suicides, like people intentionally drinking this stuff to like kill themselves.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's just interesting because this e-cigarette was kind of the answer to, it was supposed to be like the safe, healthy alternative to smoking.
Right.
But now like these chemicals, because I mean, like flavored tobacco was outlawed, right? Like that was taken away.
Yeah.
Mainly because
kids.
Yeah, exactly. We didn't want to get kids hooked too early.
Joe Camel.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got to mention Joe Camel.
Right. But now this is, I think, just like it's like a similar type of thing. Because like if you've seen e-cigarettes, I mean, they're very like sleek, they're very attractive. They've got like cool lights, right?
Yeah.
Like a blue light on the
Blue
end
light.
that like lights up when you smoke it.
That's cool.
And like these bottles of nicotine liquid are, you know, really attractive as well.
How many kids are drinking the e-cigarette liquid or putting it on their skin? How many? Like, because this is this was always an interesting thing. I had the poison control sticker like everyone else.
Okay, well, it says this one study was done in Minnesota, and it said out of all the calls made, half of them were children under the age of 2.
Out of all the calls made for e-cigarette poisonings or overall?
For e-cigarette poisonings.
Okay.
Half of them were children under the age of 2.
Oh my gosh, these children.
Yeah.
I always thought it was funny. When I came into cognition...
In Oklahoma, all but 2 of the 25 cases in the first 2 months of this year involved children under the age of 4.
All but 2. So it was 23.
Yeah, in the first couple of months.
E-cigarettes. So is this worse than secondhand smoke?
Well, I mean...
For the children?
I think by the numbers, no. Like, I think there are definitely more kids who live with parents who smoke, you know, who suffer from secondhand smoking. Because you can't really suffer from secondhand smoke, like, with the e-cigarette as much, right? So it's, like, not just, like, if your parents smoke e-cigarettes in their house, that's not going to harm you as much. But by having this, like, dangerous toxic chemical in your house that's accessible, that is more dangerous. Like, you are going to, like, die right away, or you're going to, like, have to be rushed to the hospital right away.
So it's trade-off.
Yeah,
Long, slow death, immediate painful death,
demise.
Yeah, immediate demise. I always thought it was funny. When they showed us, they came to our schools when I was really young. I was already cognizant. I wasn't 2 or younger. I was like, I don't know, 5 or 6.
Yeah.
And they would show us all these pills not to take. They're like, oh, this looks like an M&M. Don't take it, though, because it's not an M&M.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there was a board. There was a
Interesting.
thing. Someone had a collection. I'd like to get my hands on that now, because I thought that was cool. But I thought, who are the kids out here taking all these candies on the playground, dropping dead because, again, poisoned? I always thought it was ridiculous. But I wasn't 2, so maybe when I was 2, I was at risk.
Well, maybe you had good parents that kept things... you know, locked away.
But I always thought, too, like, no, Mom, don't worry. I'm not going to take...
Because, man, I remember when I was little and I saw my uncle's, like, Tums medication out. I was like, man, candy. Like, I'm going to eat those Tums.
Yeah.
No, for real, though.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's interesting. Maybe, I mean... Maybe they just repackaging it differently.
Yeah, so what's going to happen? Is this going to be okay?
I don't know. Because e-cigarettes are so new as well. Like people, I mean, there's just not as much legislation on it. And when they first came out, it was such a positive thing, really.
In a way.
So, I don't know.
It's enabling addiction, but otherwise...
Yeah. Or like people try to mix their liquids themselves before putting it inside their cigarettes, and like if it gets on your skin, like that in and of itself is extremely harmful. So
yeah.
I don't know.
Well, that's we'll keep an eye on that.
Yeah, definitely.
I wonder what'll happen. Well, you've been listening to Summer and Damian in the Morning on 88.7 The Edge. We'll be right back. You're tuned into 88.7 The Edge. This is Kirksville's True Alternative. We just listened to First Aid Kit.
Yep.
This morning...
Our music theme is like women.
Yeah. This morning, Summer walks in and said, Damian, what do you know about women vocalists? And I said, not enough, Summer.
I was like, here, let me tell you.
Let me tell you
Let me
about
show you.
female vocalists. She hands me this CD. I pop it in. That's what we're
No,
listening
I had
to.
a friend make me a mix CD once, and a long time ago, and I just listened to it like yesterday.
Really?
I've had it.
Who is
it
it?
was this gift.
Who is it?
Austin made it for me.
Oh, okay. Was this like an early, like, I'm thinking about you?
Yeah, that kind of like an early cute thing.
Yeah.
I
You
don't
just got
remember
around
when
to it.
it was, but I don't have a CD player in my new computer. I have a Chromebook and it doesn't play CDs, and so I never get to listen to CDs anymore. And so I purposefully went to the Mac Lab in Truman's library the other day because I was like, man, I'm going to listen to this CD.
Yeah.
And so I put it in, and I was like, it's good.
Yeah.
It's really good. Yeah, he put like Cat Power on there, which like the few Cat Power songs I listen to are like extremely sad and melancholy.
Yeah, that's what I got. I've got a Cat Power song.
Right, and so the first
lined
time
up.
he ever gave me one of her songs to listen to, like on YouTube or something, I was like, okay, this is really depressing. I'm not going to listen to Cat Powers anymore. But like, man, it just like her songs on here go so well with all the other artists. It's great. That one we played earlier, the "Come On in My Kitchen" one by Crooked Still. Oh my gosh, that song is a cover of another song, like an old like blues song by a guy named Robert Johnson. It's been covered by
Robert Johnson?
Yeah, by a guy named Robert Johnson. But it's
Some
been
guy
covered
with a guitar.
Yeah, exactly. It was his song, and it was like covered by like Eric Clapton and like the Allman Brothers and a bunch of people. But man, I really love their version of this song,
Really?
especially because of like the woman's voice, and it turned it into like this woman's song, right? Like they kind of changed the lyrics a little bit, and like the opening of it is like those hardcore like cellos, like that rhythm with the cellos.
Yeah, that was good.
It's really good.
So
yeah, this album is great. We should just keep playing songs from it.
Yeah, we'll continue. We got a lot of music.
It's good.
So
But yeah.
I've been thinking about the CSI Effect.
The CSI Effect.
The CSI Effect, noted by researchers and social commentators, saying that the popularity of the show CSI and its spin-offs has made the United States, we're over-reliant on forensic evidence in the courtroom. And this has two distinct effects. It burdens both the prosecution and the defense. It burdens the prosecution by making the jury expect forensic evidence in all kinds of cases where forensic evidence is just not feasible.
Okay.
And so if you don't have forensic evidence, it's going to be tougher to
So
make
it
your
changes
case.
how they make decisions.
Juries, yeah.
Interesting.
That's the idea. And it also burdens the defense, because if the prosecution does present forensic evidence, that's it. Game over.
They think that's
it. So that's the idea, but there is some research, so we can measure and see if we've seen these kinds of effects in the courtrooms. And it's difficult to really measure and research juries because their proceedings are private and they're held and they're kept privately. But we do know a couple things. There was this Ouachita County study in 2006. It was a large correlational study. It had over 1,000 respondents. And they tried to find out the effect of forensic evidence in a courtroom. And they found out that if a case is based only on circumstantial evidence, which are things like motive, alibi,
Right.
where you were, why you would do that, anything other than forensic evidence,
Right.
which is what we only used to have in courtroom proceedings. But if a case is based only on that kind of evidence, juries were more likely to acquit. And so the idea is that if you don't have this forensic evidence, you're not going to get the prosecution. You're not going to go to the prosecution side,
Right.
Because you're just putting such a big value on it. So there's other studies. There's been this noted tech effect where we think that forensic science can do all sorts of things that it can't do. Not only that everyone has access to forensic science, and so even small town police departments are expected to use forensic science for
That's
all
so
kinds of cases that
interesting.
aren't really needed.
I feel like that's really dangerous.
Yeah.
You know, like that makes so much sense. I mean, like CSI, like a bunch of people like wanted to start studying criminal justice, whatever, because I thought that was what the job was going to be like.
Right,
and
right.
I don't know. You just get this image of like how that is reality, and every court case, like up to the last second, is like based on this like really important high tech like evidence that they extracted or something.
And that show just bastardizes the process completely because the people who are doing the forensic research, gathering data, they're the ones that go on and do test that, but then they also go on to interrogate suspects and to do interviews, and then they're in the courtroom, and they do all sorts of things that is really not true to the process at all. And people have even in jurors or test subjects, they kind of they expect all kinds of things that don't even exist. There was one study I read where a juror said that the police should have dusted the lawn for fingerprints. Something that isn't even
possible.
Is not even possible. It is not possible. But the idea that we believe technology has advanced so far, they can do all sorts of things that used to not be possible. That's still not possible. You can't fingerprint a lawn for fingerprints. But this juror criticized the police department for not doing that.
Wow.
So I think it's weird.
It is weird.
So it's crazy. But this idea also that the popularity of the shows has made more people go into forensic science, that's also an effect. You could call it the CSI effect. That's measurable. We've seen an increase in these programs.
Yes.
And what usually used to be the process was people who went into forensic science would get a science degree, a bachelor's science degree, and then go on to their master's to get something a little more specific, and then go on to work in forensic science. But now there's a demand for programs specific to forensic science.
Oh, at the bachelor level.
At the bachelor level. And so some people have commented that these forensic scientists, although they're trained in their undergraduate years for forensic science, they're not as good scientists. And they're losing a lot of training there, and that's a harm to our system.
Interesting.
So it's also interesting. Another thing I thought about was, are these shows making criminals smarter? Are they learning to be better criminals so that they won't be able to get caught? These shows, they mostly focus on murder, so that's what I looked at. Are murderers concealing their tracks better now because of CSI and what they know is possible because of forensic science?
Maybe, but I just feel like with these shows, they're like, maybe technique wise, possibly, because but maybe not like plan wise.
Yeah,
like. I feel like most of the stories that these episodes are based on are like real stories that you can find on Wikipedia, right? Like most of these episodes are like referred to this case back in this time. Like this is where we got the idea from. So the ideas are still there, but yeah, maybe like the technique of, remember this. I don't know.
Well, there have been some criminals that commented and say that they take these extra precautions.
Yeah?
Yeah, there's one really cool, there's multiple examples. There have been rape victims that say that they were told to bleach themselves to get rid of evidence and things like that. But there's one specific example. In 2005, Jermaine McKinney broke into a house in Ohio and he killed 2 women. And he was a fan of the show, so he took these extra precautions. He cleaned himself with bleach. He burned the victims and his clothes, and he got rid of the weapon. It was a dagger. Or a knife. I don't think they call them daggers anymore.
Nice, Damian.
It was a blade of some sorts, and he threw it into a lake. So he thought he was being really precautious, but the investigators, they weren't convinced that this really has an effect. They caught him, obviously, and Tammy Klein, she was the lead investigator in this case against McKinney, said that the criminals that she deals with for these murders, they're usually pretty dumb. And so they're not going to really be able to cover their tracks as well as they might think.
Sure. They might think of a few more things than they would have before watching the show, but they're still...
Well, it's interesting because some criminals have, instead of licking envelopes that would leave their DNA there, they will use tape. And so that tape will leave behind fingerprints and hair. And so it's you know...
you don't win. Get you.
You can't win. There's actually this one really cool scene. This woman, she was abducted, and she had no way to contact the outside world. And the guy, he was really good at getting his DNA off of the girl's body.
Yeah.
But she ripped out in his car, she ripped out her hair and left it there. And so they were able to go back to his car and find her hair. And they got him.
Okay.
Isn't that cool?
So smart victims.
I know. So
maybe victims are getting smarter.
Maybe victims are getting smarter, too.
We are all getting smarter.
Maybe.
Like what to do in that situation.
Right, but that's a good... So now we all know, if we're ever abducted, start pulling out hair.
Yeah.
Pulling out hair, throw it everywhere. They won't find it. They'll get the car.
Man, those shows really get me.
Yeah?
Yeah, like horror movies, I can handle those, but... Those CSI shows, because it's like real life stuff, you know, like those things have happened, and those things can happen,
but not that frequently.
No, but you know,
and violent crime is down.
That's true.
But I understand. My room,
they're
my
freaky.
house, yeah, my house got into Bones.
Yeah,
which is kind of a you could say, you know, granddaughter to these CSI shows, and it's not a great show for me, but I can enjoy it.
Yeah,
I can enjoy it well enough. Well, anyway, we're gonna take another break. 8 o'clock hour, we have We have our guest, Nick Toti. He's a filmmaker out of Austin, Texas. Also a Truman grad. His movie screened last night. You Are Your Body, You Are Not Your Body. We're going to talk about that, filmmaking process, and all other sorts of things. So keep it right here on the left at 88.7 The Edge. Good morning, Kirksville. You're tuned in to 88.7 The Edge. This is Summer and Damian in the morning. We're welcoming in studio our guest, filmmaker Nick Toti. Nick is a filmmaker based out of Austin, Texas. His film last night, his film You Are Your Body, You Are Not Your Body, screened on campus. And well, first off, Nick, thank you for coming in this morning.
Oh, you're welcome.
Appreciate you coming in. I gotta say, congratulate you again on excellent screening last night. It was a packed house.
It was. I was happy to see that. I've been saying that at first I thought if there's more than 20, I'll be happy. And then I found out one of the film classes was forced to come. And
so that, guaranteed.
Yeah, so that was like 15. And so then I changed it and I was like, if there's more people that I don't know than people that I do know, and they're not all forced to be there. And I think we reached it.
It feels like it.
Yeah.
Well, because you're a Truman graduate, you were here for your bachelor's and your master's.
Yes.
And so I figured that you knew a lot of the English faculty. And a good amount of English faculty.
Yeah, a lot of them showed up, and it was really good seeing them all there.
That's cool. So is it different to see them now from a different perspective? You've been away from Truman for a while, and you haven't seen them, and they haven't seen your work. Is it cool to come back and present something you've been working on?
Yeah, and I mean that's why I contacted. I've been traveling through the state with a friend of mine who's working on a book, and so we've planned this trip for the past year or so that we were going to be traveling around Missouri for 3 weeks, and so I took it as an opportunity to set up this screening because I just wanted to set up a screening here. And so it was good. It was good getting like the old faculty that I was friends with to come back and getting to like have students there and everything, and some of them having their grade bumped up a little for it.
Yeah, I didn't know that about the film class being required to be there.
Yeah,
but
only one of them was, I think, but I think that it was just kind of penciled into the syllabus as this is one of the movies we're going to watch for this class.
No, that's cool.
But you've also been like visiting a couple classes this week, right? Some
film
classes.
I went to Brent Orton's film class on Tuesday night.
Cool.
Good.
What film class was that?
It was Film Form and Sense. I think
okay.
the basic entry level film class they do here.
Okay.
And I don't know what all they do now, but I know they have a film minor now.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Which wasn't here when I was here.
Really? Did you take film courses while you were here?
I did. I took a couple of them. I took Film Form and Sense, and I took it was an Eastern European and Russian film class.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
and then when I was in grad school, I did my master's thesis was on horror movies. Was on specifically horror movies with like psychotic rednecks in them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what have we learned about psychotic redneck movies?
Tons of it. Tons of stuff. God, it's been a while, but I'd have to go to Pickler and find my thesis and refresh myself. But what I was doing was I was kind of connecting it to other film genre traditions. Like there was a chapter that was kind of looking at it as an extension of the Western genre and looking at this idea of like once the frontier extended all the way to the Pacific Ocean, we then like kind of had the frontier turn inwards, and there's just these. So then you've got movies like Wrong Turn, where suddenly like you're driving, you're in civilization, you're driving, you're in civilization, you make a wrong turn, suddenly you're in the middle of the frontier, and you're in savage territory.
Yeah.
And instead of like savage Indians, now it's savage rednecks. And one comparing them to science fiction movies, and one comparing them to like classical ghost stories.
Oh, okay, cool. So you've been interested in film for a long time, it sounds like.
Yeah, well, I guess that there's been a kind of dilettantish interest since I was a young person, since I was a teenager, but nothing with any rigor until I was in my mid-20s, I kind of started getting more I got really into horror movies and was just like kind of compulsively buying and watching like hundreds of horror movies.
Wow.
And I went over to Bob Mielke, the English professor's house last night, and saw that when I left town last time after grad school, I held a big yard sale, and he purchased a bunch of stuff for me. So he's got a sizable collection of my former horror movies.
That's great.
It was cool seeing your old hobby on a wall on a shelf somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, it was like I was just walking around, and he's got tons of he's got kind of like floor to ceiling bookshelves that are just stacked. And so I was walking through, and I was like, that used to be mine. That used to be mine. That used to be mine.
Yeah.
But I got really into horror movies, and then kind of during grad school, I kind of got less interested in horror movies and more interested in like artsy fartsy European movies and world cinema and stuff like that. And like Pickler has an awesome
yes, it does. Yeah.
media collection, and so I was just like running around Pickler like getting stuff like just 5 DVDs at a time and just like burning through stuff while I was here, because I was like, all right, I'm going to be like, I want to make sure that I'm like not embarrassing knowledgeable about movies. So I start watching like all the like Bergman and like Herzog and Fassbender that I could get my hands on here, and that was great because they have a great collection. And I was teaching wax, so things that I wanted them to have, I could order and say it was for my class.
Yeah,
like there was a movie which is one of my maybe my all-time favorite movie that Pickler has only because I as a teacher had them order for like $120 some like
really
like region-free European DVD of it, but it's Lars von Trier's The Idiot. So so you're welcome.
I think I'm going to watch that this weekend.
We should find that,
That's awesome. Thank you.
Don't watch it if like your mom's in town.
Okay.
It's not one that you want to watch with your mom.
Okay.
So how did you transition from like English teaching WACT and doing your master's here in English to like actual filmmaking?
I moved to Austin after I finished here.
Okay, straight away.
Yeah, moved. It was, I think, July after the spring semester ended, and spent. Well, actually, pretty soon after getting down to Austin, it was. I started kind of working on smaller things that were just kind of like I stole a camera from my roommate when he like moved out of our apartment. Like I like hid his camera and then
nice.
Was like using that to make these little short movies. And only one of them I still kind of stand by. The other ones I kind of don't show to anybody anymore. Yeah. But I made this one that's called Gaga, Me, Her Boyfriend, and the River. That's about this girl who is a Lady Gaga impersonator who kind of was getting a lot of... Well, actually, like 6 months before or a year before I met her, she had been getting like all this publicity in the town where she went to school, San Marcos, where... what is it? Texas State
University.
And like the attention she was getting was very like mixed because she's a fairly overweight person, and she would dress up as Lady Gaga and do these things and like make these videos of her like in like a skin colored bodysuit with just like electrical tape over like so that it looked like she was just wearing electrical tape, and she's like rolling around and on like sand and like making these really provocative videos and stuff. And but she's this overweight girl, and so like some people were like laughing at her and she was getting attention for that, but other people were like, oh, she's really body positive, so they're giving her attention for that. And other people are like, she's just ripping off Lady Gaga, so like she's getting all this like weird mix of attention. And I thought it was really interesting, and I kind of muscled my way into meeting her because I was like, I'm going to make I don't know how to make a documentary, but I'm going to make a documentary about this person.
Awesome.
And then just like got in contact with her, and then like just kept on and then just kept on banging away at the idea of like, I'm going to do this. And then like now it's something that exists. So I guess it worked.
Is it a short?
Yeah, it's. I had expected it to be like a longer short, because it was. I guess I expected it to probably be like 30 minutes long, and I had like 4 hours of interview with her and some like her music videos that she puts up and stuff like that, and but she's really like. When she would talk, she would like ramble and was kind of like incoherent in the way that she talked, in a way that I thought was like totally fascinating.
Yeah.
But then like when I started editing it, I found that it kept getting shorter and shorter and shorter for me to be able to make sense of it, like to take all this like kind of like stuttering and mumbling and stuff, and then like so by the time I was done, it went from like 5 hours of footage or 4 hours of footage to a 5-minute movie. So yeah,
and a lot of editing,
and that's pretty typical. Like where you're just like, yeah, it's going to be like just this fraction of the thing, especially with a documentary. So
I see.
That's so interesting.
So then, how did this project come about? The film, You Are Your Body, You Are Not Your Body. What's the story with that?
It came about because my collaborator, Matt Latham in Texas, he had been started on the project before I was involved. He had gotten together the actors he wanted to work with, and then after they were all together, they started he had this name, You Are Your Body, You Are Not Your Body, that he thought he was intrigued by, and he wanted to kind of do something around those ideas. And they kind of all started exchanging ideas together. And then at that point, he asked me to get involved. And so this is still pretty early on. We had no idea what the movie was going to be. We just knew who was going to make it together. And through the like months of exchanging ideas and photographs and videos and stories and things like this, these ideas started to emerge and patterns started to emerge. And from that, me and Matt wrote a story, and then from that story, Matt started. We started like setting things up to shoot, and Matt would then like kind of last minute actually write out dialogue for those scenes, and then we would give that to the actors, and then we would kind of workshop it, and they would do some improv, and we'd kind of make it better, because usually it was like first draft stuff that Matt would give them, and then we would kind of just like make it better. Basically, every step along the way, it was like, we have an idea. Now we're kind of refining the idea and figuring out the best way to get that idea across. So like, and really like even still with editing the movie, it's still doing that. Like there's still like lines that get cut when you're editing and things like that. So yeah, so every step along the way, it's just like, take this thing and then like make it a little bit better every step. And then hopefully you end with a finished movie at the end of that.
Something coherent. Yeah. Great. Well, we're going to take a break. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit more specifically about the film, because I think there's some cool things that happen in the film, and I want to talk a little bit about them. So you've been listening to Summer and Damian in the Morning on 88.7 The Edge. We'll be right back. Good morning. You're tuned in to 88.7 The Edge. This is Kirksville's True Alternative, and this is Summer and Damian in the Morning. We're here every Thursday morning, 7 to 9 a.m. And we're still joined in studio by filmmaker Nick Toti. His film, You Are Your Body, You Are Not Your Body, screened here on campus last night. Again, it was an excellent screening. I want to ask, this was promoted to me as a horror movie. And we talked before the break that you there was a time where you got into horror film, and you also said that you got into this project a little bit late. People were already starting to work on it a little bit.
Well, the little bit late was like maybe 2 weeks after people had started working on it. Like, and the working on it was like exchanging ideas at that point. Okay. So I was just the last key creative contributor to come on to the project. But it was still like we didn't have characters or a plot or anything like that. So it was still at the beginning of things.
Okay. So how did this develop into a horror movie then?
Well, I mean, I think that it's only, there's an argument to be made that it's a horror movie. My preferred genre for it is I like to call it a metaphysical melodrama, and but that hasn't really caught on because I guess it's not very sexy sounding.
It's hard to put on a poster, maybe.
Yeah, but like psychological religious thriller sounds better to get the kids in the seat. But I also had suggested recycological thriller.
Okay.
But that didn't catch on either.
This could be a new genre. Just continue to make these films. You could
keep throwing that word out there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's something like The Exorcist or Rosemary's Baby. Those could be like religious psychological thrillers. But yeah, I mean, I think that it's you could argue that it's a horror movie, but I think that if I just was like had a friend who was like this gore hound who was like into Cannibal Holocaust and like the Halloween sequels and stuff, like, and then they were like, oh, I want to see your movie because it's a horror movie, they might be a little disappointed in it.
Yeah. So and that's even the feeling I got from the trailer, because I went into it, okay, here's this horror movie, and there's certainly a lot of creepy aspects to it, but I agree with you in that. So I guess we should give a little synopsis of the film, so you can, just for our listeners, give us something, a little bit, so we can begin talking about.
I'll just read from this. There's a summary in the index of the way we described it on our Kickstarter page. So I'm just going to read that because it's actually it took me about a month to figure out how to summarize the movie in a way that made sense. Yeah. And so it's hard for me to just like do it. So I'm just going to read. Let's see. The movie tells the story of the Evans family, an unhappy family from Texas who has been estranged for a decade. After the death of Dinah Evans, her 4 children reunite. As tensions rise for the children, a mysterious woman and her cult of devoted followers come to offer salvation.
Yeah, and that woman, that mysterious woman with the cult, that's where a lot of the creepy stuff happens.
Yeah.
I want to talk really quick about I guess, a technical or visual aspect of it. One of the things that struck me first was the contrast and exposure, oftentimes between the foreground and the characters and the background. And originally I thought that maybe that was just a limitation in equipment, but the more as the film went on, I really started to appreciate it as part of the visual language of the film and something unique to the film. And it gives the film, like I said, a unique perspective. Now, was this something that you guys thought about, or how did you guys approach that?
Well, I mean, everything that was done formally was really, and I mean, almost as a kind of provocation to other indie filmmakers right now, where there's kind of this and it's not a bad approach, but it's just kind of one of those things where it's like if you see everybody kind of doing a similar thing aesthetically, it's kind of like, I'm definitely the type of person, and Matt is also not quite this for the same reasons, but in a similar way, where it's just like kind of boring if everyone's doing the same thing. And for me, it's like I kind of just want to just like, knock things off the shelf a little bit. Like I've just got kind of a more like, I don't know, antisocial bent with it, but like it's this kind of like, there's like this handheld style that a lot of like independent movies do, where the camera's just kind of like shaky and following people around, and it feels a little haphazard, and some people can use that really well and get a lot of like energy and like raw performances from that style, but it seems to just kind of be the go-to method. And so for this movie, something that that Matt in particular was concerned with, because he was also the cinematographer on it, was that all of the look of it, he might not have like, carefully considered the implications of every individual shot. Like, it's much more intuitive whenever you're looking at it and framing it and stuff, and you're just like, all right, this looks how I want it to look. But the overall look of the movie was something that was really carefully thought about and considered, and we thought about what we wanted the movie to feel like, and then we watched other movies that kind of felt the same way. We knew we were going to be shooting it in black and white. But it was like, there was a specific sort of tradition of movies that are in black and white from a certain time period onward that we wanted to like kind of include ourselves with, which is like not your classical Hollywood movies, but if you look at movies in like, I guess the earliest one that we looked at was, excuse me, maybe either Night of the Living Dead or Bergman's Winter Light were the two, or I think Winter Light came out before Night of the Living Dead. But and then we also watched Peter Bogdanovich's Paper Moon and a couple of other black and white movies that are more modern, but still in like, because when you see something in black and white, it makes you think kind of like, it immediately kind of puts you into movie mode where you're like, I'm not watching reality, I'm watching a movie. But there's this like the more excuse me, the more modern ones kind of have a different feel where they don't have the same techniques as these classical Hollywood movies. They have more modern techniques. And so, but a movie like Paper Moon is set in the Depression, and it's shot in black and white with this kind of classical feeling style, but it's a movie that could not have been made in the 1930s. Right. So it's kind of putting you in this different headspace of like, this is modern and it's also classical at the same time. And that was kind of the tradition that we wanted to have the movie feel within. And so, and I think we got it. And I think that the contrast of like small town Texas and then Los Angeles in it is kind of also playing into that.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking also, was it representative of contrast between the characters or between settings? And so it's something that by the end of the film I was really appreciating, and so that's something I really enjoyed about that film.
And that's great. And while I wouldn't necessarily say that like that was directly intentional from us, but I'll take it. Like,
sure.
If you throw that at the wall and it sticks, then that works for me.
Yeah, well, that reminds me of last night after the screening. There was a question and answer session, and a couple people were asking about interpretation of the film and meaning, and you said that it seemed to me that you were pretty liberal in letting people interpret the film in a way that suited them, and then you presented an interpretation or a way that you like to think of the film, and whether or not people like that or that suited them, that's up to them.
Yeah, and it's even what I had said last night was something that I'm not even so sure about. Like for when we made the movie, what was important to us was that the movie worked emotionally, that it carried you through from one scene to the next, and you wanted to keep seeing what happened. Not necessarily that you're understanding why these characters, like usually you watch a movie and you say like, okay, this guy's the main character, I know what he wants, I know what obstacles are in his way, I'm hoping he overcomes those obstacles. In this movie, and this is why it was so hard for me to summarize whenever I had to summarize it originally, we don't really have that kind of structure. Like there's 6 main characters, and so like who do you choose to say like the movie's about whenever you're describing it? And you can't describe what every character goes through, or you're just giving the whole movie away. And but so what was important to us was that as the movie's unfolding, one scene leads seamlessly into the next scene, and emotionally you're carried through in this way that you maybe don't understand where you're being taken. And in making a storyline that unfolded in that way, we weren't so worried about like whether or not everything made perfect sense or was really spelled out for you, and including for us, it was like, does this make emotional sense? Does the way everything comes together, not just the plot or the like writing or things like that, not just these kind of literary elements of it, but does everything come together to carry you through a continuous emotional like ebb and flow? And I think that we got that. And so for myself, it's like I still kind of, the movie's still kind of mysterious to me. Like I've got some kind of like, what was the Kubrick Shining movie, Room 237. Like I've got kind of my Room 237 ideas about like what this all means, but really I just think that means that it kind of was crafted in a way that makes it just kind of like more something that you can kind of look at and think about than something where it's just like an easy sort of like, all right, yeah, I watched it, and the hero got the girl at the end, and I'm happy, and then you walk away from it. It kind of sticks with you, at least hopefully it does.
And is that something that you appreciate or prefer in the art that you consume, just for your pleasure?
I guess it depends. Like, I definitely those are the ones that I think stick with me more. Like, I think that Herzog is one of my favorite filmmakers, and I think that particularly his narrative films, because he also makes documentaries, which are also great, but his narrative films, I really feel like they're really kind of like hard to know what to do with, and that's something that I really appreciate about him. Like he'll just kind of like hold on shots for too long, like a shot of I think in Aguirre, The Wrath of God, there's just like a minute-long shot of showing these rapids on this river that they're going to be traveling on, and it's just like, God, you're showing me this rapids for a minute. But it does something to you. Like, you start thinking about things in different ways, and you get into this different sort of rhythm and way of thinking about what you're looking at, and that's one of the things that I most value about his work. And yeah, I could talk about other filmmakers, but I can go on endlessly.
Well, that specifically, it seemed to me, I could see that kind of influence in your film. There were some extended shots, and you're right, it kind of does put you in a place. It's unexpected. What's going on? How should I feel about this? What's happening next? So just I did see that long shot influence in the film last night. So that was cool to see.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, and it's all about, like, it's weird figuring out how to balance that stuff, because in this movie, it's very much about the rhythm of the movie. So, like, there's one part where there's a scene with two women sitting in a park, and there's kind of one's leading the other in this kind of guided meditation technique, and that scene has a couple of really pretty, if I can call something that I worked on bold, like, there were bold choices made in that scene, where, like. Yeah. And we kind of you have to work your way into that if the audience is going to stick with you. And what happens first, the first bold thing that happens is that you get about, I want to say, like a 2-minute shot of just one character's face as she's sitting with her eyes closed, listening to somebody talk. And she responds to the woman who's talking maybe 3 times, and but the rest of the time she's just sitting there looking directly toward the camera with her eyes closed. And if you can get a room full of, I think we had 60 or 70 people there last night, but if you can get a room of 70 people to stare forward at a woman closing her eyes for 2 minutes, I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, you did something. Yeah, that's true. Definitely bold choices there. The narrative of and then taking us senses wise, we see her eyes close from her perspective, and that's something I'd never seen in a film. And then we hear things, I think, the way you and everyone else wanted us to hear things. So that was definitely a bold scene. I appreciate I like boldness in films, boldness in life, but in films especially when you're making art, I like boldness. And so that's a scene I really appreciate.
Yeah, something that bugs me on the super indie level, that, like, I feel like that was why I had a little note read at the beginning of the movie that just said something along the lines of, "Please enjoy my glorified home movie." And like I almost like have trouble even like considering myself part of independent filmmaking, because it's like it's like what we're doing is so independent that it's like more like it's like calling somebody's home movies independent cinema. And so it's like we might be good at what we're doing, but we're still just using cameras that we bought ourselves, like the same way as like kids in high school, like running around with their parents' video camera, making like a kung fu movie. Like it's essentially like just kind of a grown-up version of that, and we're maybe better at it, but it's still like, for me, still kind of almost more like I feel like I'm being pretentious until somebody wants to give me some money, and like I'm not just spending my own money on making these things. Then like at that point I'll consider myself like part of the indie film community, really. But like for right now, I'm still kind of the kid running around the house. But one of the things that bugs me about people who are working on that no budget level, like me and Matt work, is that they still play it safe. And just kind of, it seems like they're making something that's already compromising. Like they'll be making the kind of movie they think will appeal to like somebody in Hollywood if they saw it, and they would be like, oh, this person would be a good commercial filmmaker. And it's like, if you don't have any money, you should almost, like, I feel like you should be pushing yourself to, you almost have a responsibility to push yourself to take bigger risks, because like, even it's like, why not? Like, what else are you, why are you doing it if it's not to like do something crazy? Like, nobody's looking over your shoulder to make sure you're not doing something crazy. The only money you're wasting is your own money, and you're probably wasting your money anyway if you're making a movie. You're probably not going to get anything back from it if you didn't have investors to begin with. And so seeing like somebody save up $10,000 and then make like a romantic comedy that's just like set in like mostly in their apartments and stuff, it's just like, it's boring. Like, what are you probably don't like seeing movies like this yourself, and yet you're making one. Like throw someone vomiting into it or something, you know, like add a clown into it.
Clown.
I never thought about it like that though. Like, if you don't have those strings attached, like to your investors or whatever, like you kind of have leeway then to like make that bold move, right? And like see what happens.
Yeah, and that's why it's so disappointing to see people like, it's like they're just begging to have somebody tell them to like make concessions or play it safe, and it's like, and like, how do you expect to get anyone's attention by doing that? Like, I think if you're going to get someone's attention, it seems much more likely that it's going to be through having done something kind of crazy, or even like looking at like a movie like Clerks, which isn't like in any way a formally crazy or audacious movie. It's a very restrained movie. Like, they had a lot of severe limitations for it, and they made the movie that they made because of those limitations. But it was like, what Kevin Smith did with that movie was like, he filled it with so much profanity and vulgarity that caught people's attention. Like that was the craziness element, was that it was like, well, if I'm going to be doing this movie and spending, you know, $27,000 on credit cards doing it, like, I'm going to cram every swear word I can into this thing, and hopefully that will generate some attention for it.
I wanted to go back to this home video comment. Last night I was wondering, and I'm still wondering, if the film reflects in a narrative sense a home movie or anything like that. Of course, every artist puts something of themselves into their work, but I was wondering if there was more to that than just, I'm just making movies with my money.
So you mean like, is
story wise, character wise, how much
did I ever get abducted by a apocalyptic religious cult?
Yeah, by the second coming of Jesus.
Yeah. Well, it was actually weird writing it, because of the writing of it and the making of the movie was all very kind of impulsive. Like, we would make decisions quickly and then kind of like reflect on those decisions and then kind of tinker with them from there. And like I mentioned, the approach was kind of like, start with one thing and then kind of chisel down and hope that it's all good by the time you get to the end. And so like working in that way, where you're not really thinking to yourself, okay, why am I making this choice? Like, what am I really communicating by doing this? But it was just kind of like, does this feel emotionally right to us as we're making these decisions? You don't really think about like where the ideas are coming from. And it was only as we were like months after we had written the initial storyline of the movie, when we were actually in the like deep midst of making it, like the real like down and dirty elements of actually like making the movie. It was only at that moment, like when we were at our busiest, that I realized that there was like, I was like, oh man, there's like a ton of really personal stuff from me in this movie that I didn't even realize was in there. Like I realized that there were things that I was like, this thing that happens to this character is something that happened in my life, but in a totally different way. Like as if like my brain had distracted me from the fact that I was like basically ripping off an event from my own life, but changing like one or two details about it and then putting it whole cloth into the movie. Like, and so like so watching it is a really. It was actually watching it last night was I got like more emotionally invested than I expected to, which could have been from watching it on the big screen and watching it with a crowd of people. And also, I haven't watched in a while, and I also had not yet seen this particular cut of it. Because this version we watched last night was about 5 minutes shorter than the last version that I saw it, that I saw of it, because Matt's been just continuously editing.
Yeah.
So yeah, like there's a ton of stuff that's just like really kind of messy, personal, emotional stuff for me in there. And I don't know how much of that is true of Matt also, but I imagine there's probably at least some of it. So
yeah, I see.
Yeah, it just kind of comes out whenever when you're not really thinking about what you're doing. You can't help but have it come in there.
It makes sense. You work on something so long and hard, things like that are just going to get in there, intentionally or not.
Right, and it's not like, and also like we weren't not trying to do that. You know, like
sure.
if you could just as easily as you can sit down and say like, oh, I want to write something about like, this girl I broke up with or this boss that I don't like or something. But you can also sit down and you can say like, I am absolutely not going to write about this girl that I broke up with or the fact that I hate my boss. But like that stuff can still kind of pop up in there, even though you may be trying not to have it.
Absolutely.
Right.
Well, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to finish up our interview with Nick Toti, filmmaker, whose film screened last night here on Truman's campus. The film, You Are Your Body, You Are Not Your Body. So keep it right here on the left at 88.7 The Edge. Welcome back, Kirksville. You're tuned in to 88.7 The Edge, Kirksville's true alternative. This is Summer and Damian in the Morning. We're in studio with Nick Toti, filmmaker, whose film, he had a film screening last night. And I wanted to ask, before we ran out of time, what future projects you have in mind, or if you're starting to work on anything else.
Yeah. Well, You Are Your Body, You're Not Your Body was a collaboration between me and the movie's director and co-writer, Matt Latham, and me and Matt are continuing working on things together. As of right now, we have an almost finished short movie called When You Call Me That Smile that I directed and Matt shot and is one of the editors on. That we're finishing that up, and that's just this kind of ugly little movie that is just kind of going to just like punish the people who watch it, but it was a lot of fun.
Can't wait.
Yeah, and I'm also in the middle of a documentary about this band that existed a decade and a half ago in Seattle that I can't really talk about too much because of language restrictions, but they're called Raft of Dead Monkeys, and they were formed from the remnants of a couple of different Christian punk bands, and that were like signed to Christian record labels and like distributed in Christian bookstores around the country. But then after their Christian bands broke up, they were also frustrated with being part of this like evangelical Christian music community that they formed this really like childishly profane band, Raft of Dead Monkeys, and I can't say their song titles on the air, but I think these guys are. I've always been really fascinated by this band.
Is that a feature? Or?
It's probably not. I kind of like for the projects that I direct. I'm not quite so drawn to features. I'm drawn to like kind of tricky lengths. Like if it's over half an hour and under an hour, it's kind of hard for a festival to know what to do with that.
Yeah.
And like you don't really know whether to call it like it's like, well, it's kind of a long short or a short feature. And I'm kind of drawn to that kind of stuff almost because it's so like problematic and hard to like really categorize for yourself. But yeah, so those are two currently active projects, and we're also, me and Matt have started working with some other people. We have another group together in the same way that You Are Your Body, You Are Not Your Body started. That we have a new idea that was to do something that was more Matt wanted to do, because the past two things we've worked on have kind of flirted with the idea of being a horror movie, but Matt now would like to try doing a full-on horror movie, but coming from us, it might kind of not look like other horror movies typically look. And so we've kind of been starting on that, which I don't think we've ever publicly said the name, but our working title right now is The Blood, the Blood, the Blood, the Blood, the Blood.
Is that 5?
Yeah, that's 5.
That's 5 bloods. Wow.
That's 5 bloods. So.
Okay.
So what's the independent filmmaking like community like in Austin? You have a pretty big supportive like network of...
Yeah, and I mean, that's how we were able to make the movie as cheaply as we made it, was because we're kind of tapped into this network. The Austin Film Society is one of the best organizations in America as far as I'm concerned. I think that they're doing the Lord's work. And yeah, and I mean, it's a really great place to make things, but it's also it's an easy place to kind of fall into bad habits of like kind of laziness or just kind of being like, I don't know. There's a lot of like feeling of like people get bitter quickly there. It seems, I don't know if it's the heat or what, but like they kind of feel like more success should be coming their way, and I think that's kind of an annoying thing to have to kind of hear from people that maybe only deserve the amount of success that they have, which is not much. So but yeah, so I have mixed feelings about Austin, but there is a good community there, and like any community, you have to put up with certain frustrations within it, and figure out how to manipulate it for your own best interest. So
you'll be in Austin for a while, at least.
Oh, at least another year and a half.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll maintain connections there, and that's the good thing about like social media and stuff, is that even if you're not in the same place, like we developed You Are Your Body, You Are Not Your Body with 3 of our main collaborators didn't live in Austin, and they were just as equal in the collaboration of developing it as anyone else was. So
awesome.
Cool.
Good.
That's great. Well, Nick, thank you again for coming on the show.
You're welcome.
Really appreciated our conversation this morning, and good luck with the film, promoting it. And if any edits that you continue to make with the film, good luck with everything.
Well, thank you.
All right, well, you've been listening to Summer and Damian in the morning on 88.7 The Edge. Join us next week, Thursday morning, 7 to 9 a.m. We'll be right back here on Kirksville's True Alternative.